I wish I could stop the phone from ringing, but here we go. All right, going to continue. The keeper holding the net was crawling quietly up on Serena from the rear. She did not notice him. She was just standing there, dreaming of Louis. Slowly, slowly, the keeper raised his net. As he did, Louis went into action, lowering his long, powerful neck until it pointed straight out in front of him like a lance. He streaked across the water, straight at the keeper, his wings beating the air, his feet beating the water. In a flash, he reached the scene and drove his strong bill straight into the seat of the man's pants. It was a well-aimed job. The keeper doubled up in pain and dropped the net. The other keeper tried to grab Serena by her throat. Louis beat him over the head with his wings, striking terrific blows and knocking the poor fellow off his feet. Surgical instruments bounced into the air. The net fell into the water. One keeper groaned and held his hand on his behind, where he had been stabbed. The other keeper lay on the ground, almost knocked out. Serena slipped quickly into the water and glided gracefully away. Louis followed. He motioned for her to stay on the lake. Then he raced back to the island, grabbed his trumpet, his slate, his chalk pencil, his medal, and his money bag, flew over the balustrade, and walked boldly into the birdhouse. He was still mad. He went straight to the office of the headman in charge of birds, and he rapped on the door. "Come in," said a voice. Louis entered. The headman was seated at his desk. "Hello, Louis," he said. "Cuckoo," replied Louis through his trumpet. "What's on your mind?" asked the man. Louis placed his trumpet on the floor and took his slate and chalk pencil from his neck. "I'm in love," he wrote. The headman leaned back in his chair and got his hands behind his head. His face had a faraway look, and he gazed out of the window for a moment in silence. "Well," he said, "it's natural that you're in love. You're young, you're talented. In a couple of months, spring will be here. All birds fall in love in springtime. I suppose you're in love with one of those young swans out there." "Serena," wrote Louis. "She arrived the day before yesterday. I used to know her slightly back in Montana, and she loves me too." "That doesn't surprise me," said the headman. "You're a very unusual young cob. Any young female swan would fall for you. You're a great trumpeter, one of the best. I'm delighted to hear about this love affair, Louis. You and your bird can stay right here on Bird Lake and raise your family here in the comfort of safety." Louis shook his head. "I have other plans," he wrote. Then he set his slate down and raised his trumpet. "They say that falling in love is wonderful. It was an old song by Irving Berlin." The room was filled with the sound of love, and the headman had a dreamy look in his eyes. Louis set his horn down and took up his slate again. "I'm taking Serena away with me in a day or two," he wrote. "Oh, no, you're not," said the headman. "Serena now belongs to the zoo. She is the property of the people of Philadelphia. She came here because it was an act of God." "It wasn't an act of God," wrote Louis. "It was a high wind." "Well, anyway," said the headman, "she's my swan." "No, she's mine," said Louis. "She's mine by reason of the power of love, the greatest force on earth." The headman became thoughtful. "You can't take Serena from the zoo. She will never fly again. My keepers clipped one of her wings a few minutes ago." "They tried to," wrote Louis, "but I beat them up." The headman looked surprised. "Was it a good fight?" "It was a fair fight," said Louis. "They were sneaking up on her from behind, so I sneaked up on them from behind. They hardly knew what hit them." The headman chuckled. "I wish I'd seen it," he said. "But look here, Louis, you've got to realize the position I'm in. I have a duty to the people of Philadelphia. Within the last couple of months, I've acquired 2 rare birds by accident, you and Serena. 2 trumpeter swans. One arrived here blown by a gale, the other to keep a nightclub engagement. The whole business is most unusual for a zoo. I have my responsibility to the public. It is my duty as headman in charge of birds to see that Serena stays here. You yourself, of course, are free to leave whenever you want to." Free to leave whenever I want to. "Mr. Lucas insisted that you remain free when we arranged for your Sunday concerts. But in Serena's case, well, Louis, she's got to have her wing clipped. The zoo can't afford to lose a young, beautiful, valuable trumpeter swan. Besides, I think you're making a great mistake. If you and Serena stay here, you'll be safe. You'll have no enemies." "Freedom," replied Louis on his slate. "Safety is all well and good. I prefer freedom." With that, he picked up his trumpet and played "Button Up Your Overcoat When the Wind Blows Free." The headman smiled. Then Lewis wrote, I ask two favors. First, I want to be free. And second, I want to take Serena with me. But we can come up with a plan. Then he wrote, I ask two favors. First, put off the operation on Serena until after Christmas. I'll guarantee she won't try to escape. Second, let me send a telegram. Okay, Lewis, replied the headman, and he handed Lewis a sheet of paper and pencil. Lewis wrote out a telegram. Who do you think he's sending the telegram to? Well, if you guessed Sam Beaver, you are correct. To Sam Beaver, he wrote, am in Philadelphia Zoo. This is an emergency. Come at once. I will pay your plane fare. I'm wealthy now, signed Lewis. He handed the telegram to the headman along with $4 from his money bag. The headman was astounded. In all his days at the zoo, this was the first time he ever saw a bird send a telegram. And of course, he didn't know who Sam Beaver was, but he sent the wire and ordered his keepers to let Serena alone for a few days, which they were glad to do. Lewis thanked him and left. He returned to Serena, and they spent the day happily together, bathing, swimming, eating, drinking, and showing each other 1,000 small ways how they loved each other. Sam arrived at the zoo the next day after Christmas. He was as equipped as though he was going into the woods. Under one arm was a sleeping bag neatly rolled. On his back was a rucksack containing his toothbrush, his comb, and everything else he needed to stay clean. Lewis introduced Sam to Serena. Then he opened his money bag and showed Sam his earnings, hundreds and hundreds of dollar bills. Goodness, thought Sam, I hope she's not marrying you for your money. Lewis took his slate and told Sam about the fight with the keepers and how the headman wants to keep Serena and clip her wings. Sam stretched out on the shore of Bird Lake and clasped his hands behind his head. He looked up at the great wide sky. It was clear blue with small white clouds floating slowly across. Sam knew how Lewis felt about freedom, and for a long time he lay there thinking. Ducks and geese swam slowly back and forth with an endless procession, all captive birds. They seemed happy and well. Curiosity, Felicity, and Apathy, the three trumpeter swans, seemed happy. Listen, Lewis, he said. I've been thinking, how's this for an idea? You and Serena intend to raise a family every year, don't you? Certainly, replied Lewis on his slate. Okay, said Sam. In every family of cygnets, there is always one that needs special care and protection. Bird Lake will be a perfect place for this one little swan that needs extra security. This is a beautiful lake, Lewis. This is a great zoo. If I can persuade the headman to let Serena remain free, would you be willing to donate one of your cygnets now and then if the zoo needs another swan for the lake? If you agree, I'll go right in and see the headman right now. It was now Lewis's turn to think, and after 5 minutes, he picked up his slate. Very well, he wrote. It's a deal. Then he picked up his trumpet. Oh, ever in the green spring, he played. The waterfall stopped swimming and listened. The keepers stopped what they were doing and listened. Sam listened. The headman was in his office, and he listened as well. He even put down his pencil and leaned back in his chair and listened. The sound of Lewis's horn was in the air, and the whole world seemed better and brighter and wilder and freer and happier and dreamier. That's a good tune, said Sam. What is it? Oh, just something I made up myself, wrote Lewis on his slate. So, that is the chapter called Freedom. Boys and girls, I apologize for the phone ringing. It happens. At least the dogs weren't barking this time. But as I continue reading in the next chapter, I hope they don't bark, and I hope the phone doesn't ring. Love you all. Talk to you soon.